What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we're on to the Los Angeles Rams as a part of our 2021 NFL season preview series. This is a really good team. I'm excited to talk about them today. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video, and if you do, please hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, like what you see, you want more sports content like this, hit that subscribe button. And sound off in the comments section. Do you think this team's overrated? What's your stance on Matt Stafford? Who are some other X factors, some games you're looking forward to watching them play? Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about the Rams down below. Win range 10 to 14 wins. 10 is a pretty high floor, but minimum. This is an explosive offense that also, on the other side of the football, contains the best defensive player maybe since Lawrence Taylor, and maybe the best cornerback we've seen since Revis or somewhere thereabout, with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, of course. I mean, that's just a winning recipe. Also, a head coach that I really like. I know McVay still has to touch up some of his offense and continue to innovate, and I think it will with Matt Stafford. We'll talk about him later on, but this is a really good football team. Ceiling, maybe 14 wins is actually a little low. Thinking about it, if everything were to line up, probably 15, maybe even 16 wins if everything broke the Rams' way. My projected win total for right now is 12. When I do my updated season's projection video, which is coming very soon, it goes up to 13. So I'm in that 12 to 13 middle part of that win range. I think this is a really good football team. So realistic goal, win the division. That's what you're going for. You don't go from Jared Goff to Matt Stafford if you're thinking, okay, let's get a wild card spot. I mean, they'd be happy to get in the playoffs for sure, but they're going to win this division, which is a huge accomplishment. It's the best division in football, and that would put you in a spot to be maybe the next best contender against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like right there with the Green Bay Packers, assuming everybody's healthy. That's a big statement, so that's a good realistic goal. And then reach goal, win the Super Bowl. And I think there's a pathway for this team to do just that, right? Your big-time defensive stars make big plays. Aaron Donald makes everybody around him better. Jalen Ramsey can shut down half the field. We'll talk about some of the other players in the secondary later on. And then Sean McVay has his offense clicking on all cylinders. There's an abundance of weapons for Matt Stafford to throw to, and everything just works. And the Rams come away with the Lombardi. So that should be their reach goal, and there's a way for them to get there. To get there, though, they're going to lean on these X factors. And, of course, you have to talk about Matt Stafford, right? They make this big deal, give up first-round picks to not only get rid of Jared Goff, but to get the marginal upgrade. I don't want to say marginal, but it's not like you're going from Goff to someone like Mahomes or Rodgers or someone like that. Stafford's good. I have him in and around that 10 to 12 mark in my QB rankings, and that is a sizable upgrade from Jared Goff, who I had, I think, at 30, maybe 31. So that's a big improvement. But this is also a deep NFL time for the quarterback position, to where Jared Goff 10 years ago is way higher than 30 or 31, wherever I had him. So it's one of those marks where Goff was fine. Stafford's pretty good. How many wins does that upgrade account for? Especially when you're giving up first-round picks, you're taking on that salary. You overpaid for Leonard Floyd just to keep him around, which in theory, I understand why they did that. And, Leonard Floyd was better than a lot of other alternatives out there, especially if you don't have a first-round pick. All that leads to a situation where you have so much money tied into 5, 6 players, right? Stafford, Donald, Ramsey, Floyd now, the wide receivers, Andrew Whitworth makes an okay amount of money. All that leads to you being really thin, and your weaknesses are pretty glaring, right? Like, you wouldn't look at any of the inside linebackers as of right now. There'll be some people who surprise us. Maybe it's someone in that group. And you wouldn't look at that, as of right now, you wouldn't look at that group and say, wow, that's a fantastic unit they have there. And outside of Aaron Donald, the rest of the defensive line is fine. A'Shaun Robinson has some upside still, but it's nothing spectacular. Losing Michael Brocker certainly hurts. So they're in this interesting dichotomy, and part of that is because of Matt Stafford, where they have so much money tied into a two handful of players. You have to get creative everywhere else. This team does do a good job, though. They don't use first-round picks, but then they'll turn their second and third. They'll trade down a few times and ultimately walk away with, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 selections in the NFL draft. And they've done a good job hitting in those mid to late round picks. But Matt Stafford has to be somebody who can take this offense to a whole new level if they want to win a Super Bowl. They got to one with Jared Goff. Obviously fell short, and I think that was probably peak Goff, right? Like, quarterbacks have those peak years. They play better, and then it's kind of the outlier, right? Like Carson Wentz MVP caliber season. That was his peak season. You might be able to argue, we'll see, that Lamar Jackson's MVP season was his peak year and he won't ever be as good again. That's how it goes. Sometimes that year happens when you're 35, like you're Aaron Rodgers, and sometimes it happens really early on. I think that was the case with Jared Goff, and the stars were aligning. Plus, McVay's offense was new, it was fresh, it was innovative. Now his offense is sort of the template for everybody else. Everybody wants to be like McVay or Andy Reid. So now their offense isn't quite as new and different and tough to game plan for because you see a lot more of it elsewhere. But Matt Stafford does have the ability to make multiple reads. The knock on Jared Goff was 1, 2, maybe 3 check down. And he just wasn't a high IQ, big time processor like you hope Matt Stafford can be. And if Stafford can, read progressions 1 through 5, find the check down, or be able to also stretch the field, I think Stafford, I think it's safe to say, has a stronger arm than Jared Goff, more downfield accuracy. So he might be able to better maximize the talents of someone like Deshaun Jackson or Tutu Atwell, where, we saw Brandon Cooks have some big plays with Jared Goff, and, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp also can get down the field, but Cooks was the field stretcher with Goff back when he was playing for the Rams. And Goff used him okay, I suppose. Cooks had some moments, but overall, it wasn't anything spectacular. Stafford's someone who's better equipped to be able to stretch the field and get the most out of those big play threats. So definitely a lot riding on the shoulders of Matt Stafford. He's been the talking point for the Rams offseason. That's why the Rams, outside of my favorite team, are probably the team I'm most excited to see take the field. And they do so against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. That's pretty good. Running back Darrell Henderson's our second X factor, and this comes because everyone was hyping up Cam Akers. Like, Cam Akers was everybody's sleeper running back in fantasy, right? You probably heard that 1,000 times. And Cam Akers was due for a huge year, especially considering how he closed out last year and into the playoffs. Now he goes down. The backfield belongs to Darrell Henderson, more or less. And in specific, I'm interested to see how he handles passing situations. I think Henderson's a pretty solid running back. Definitely on first and second down, short yardage situations. Can he provide what Cam Akers could in the passing game? Probably not. They do have some other guys that they've been hyping up, getting good buzz through, beat reporters and, team reports, all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it's going to come down to Darrell Henderson. And the reason I highlight a running back here is because this team is so good. It's these low value positions. You might look at running back and then a safety who's next and say, well, those aren't the most important positions, but those positions do become important when you're talking about a really good team and winning the Super Bowl. So Henderson going to have to be really good, have to be reliable, and he's going to have to be a factor in the passing game, or some of those other running backs that are on the roster are going to have to be able to contribute in that field. So definitely keeping my eyes on that. And the final X factor, Taylor Rapp. I love Taylor Rapp coming out of Washington. This dude is my type of safety where he's so athletic. He inherently has so much range given he can cover so much ground. He has good agility. He has good straight line speed, all that. And then he just wants to lay the boom. He has good size. Taylor Rapp is just a fun dude to watch play the safety position. And this is, again, another devalued position, but considering Taylor Rapp, or maybe you think it's Jordan Fuller, one of these two guys is replacing John Johnson III, one of the best safeties in football, and a guy who did so many different things for Brandon Staley's defense. Now it turns over to Raheem Morris, which that's kind of an X factor in itself. What does that defense look like going from Staley to Morris? But focusing on players, Taylor Rapp, now he has a guaranteed starting role. I liked what I saw from him last year. Now we're going to see it on a bigger scale, larger sample size. Can he do it? Can he be a force in the run game? Can he lay the boom, intimidate receivers going over the middle of the field? Like, John Johnson's small, but you always felt a hit from John Johnson III. But additionally, John Johnson, how many times can I say his name, played fantastic deep coverage, and he was a playmaker watching and reading the quarterback's eyes. Can Taylor Rapp, maybe group Jordan Fuller in there as well, can those guys do it? Take your like, whichever one of them you want to be the final X factor. I think they will be a key component from the difference of this team being good to very good, or very good to the best team in the NFL. So obviously I'm rooting for Taylor Rapp. I like him a lot, and he's going to have a huge role, and the Rams are leaning on him heavily. Games to watch, then we'll close this one out. Week 3 against Tampa Bay. In my updated season predictions, I actually have them winning this game. Cross-country trip for Tampa Bay. Additionally, the Bucs could go 17-0 if there's a team to do it. It's them. I do think that Tampa Bay will lose some games. So the fact Los Angeles, I think they get out to a hot start. The offense is clicking right away, catches a lot of eyes, gets that early buzz. they become the team that after maybe 4 weeks, people are saying, man, the Rams are the best team in football. I could just see that narrative playing out. And Tampa Bay obviously traveling a long way. I could see that happening. Week 12 at Green Bay. I mean, come on. Of course. This is such a fun game to watch. I mean, this is potentially the battle for the number 2 seed in the NFC. Really, you could plug and play that as Green Bay versus the winner of the NFC West. I have it as the Rams in that prediction video. So it's a battle for that 2 seed. And the Rams are coming off their bye week. So despite them being on the road, I have the Rams winning this game as well. I think that extra week of rest, getting people back from injuries, and an extra week of prep all pays dividends. Additionally, Packers coming off a tough matchup in their Week 11 game. So I think that all bodes and leads to a Rams victory on the road, and one that captures everybody's attention. And Week 17 at Baltimore. This is a non-NFC matchup, which I contemplated making the final game, something that will have more direct implications on the NFC and the conference as a whole. But man, the Ravens are on the outside looking in, sort of, from the AFC. And the Rams, I don't know if they're necessarily on the outside looking in, but 2 teams that aren't necessarily the front runners that are looking to surprise some people. And they do it in vastly different ways. The Rams are going to air it out, have 4 wide receivers out there, and it's Matt Stafford slinging it around. They have some big-time defensive playmakers. The Ravens have some big-time defensive playmakers, especially in the secondary. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. How do those guys match up with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp? You also have Javon Young coming back. Draft Shaun Wade. Maybe he's a good nickel corner like he was at Ohio State 2 years ago. How does that play affect against Deshaun Jackson if he's healthy? Tutu Atwell. All of that. A deep secondary for Baltimore. A great wide receiver core for Los Angeles. Must-see football. And additionally, talking about how the dichotomy speaks to these 2 teams. Rams want to pass the ball. Ravens, primarily a run-heavy team, especially, and we'll see what happens with Rashad Bateman. His injury might cause him to slow down, and will Sammy Watkins be on the field? They being Baltimore, might be forced to try to go into an almost exclusive run-heavy offense again. So, if these 2 teams are as good as people think they will be, they'll do it in different ways, and they match up really, really well. A version of best on best. I really think the Ravens have the best cornerback duo, and the Rams have among the best wide receiver cores in the NFL. So this is must-see TV down the stretch. How good a football are these 2 teams playing before we get to the playoffs? This is a good matchup to see who's playing a better brand of football. But that's going to do it for my 2021 LA Rams season preview video. Tell me what you think about this team down in the comment section. How many wins do they get? Who are some X factors you think it works with Matt Stafford? Some games you're looking forward to watch. Love to have your thoughts. I'll respond to every comment. So let's talk about the Rams down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.